Heyo everybody, Haku here with this week's Tower of God chapter. This week we had chapter 428, or season 3 episode 11, and this is going to be kind of a long video because I'm going to need to explain this setup I've got going on here before I get into the actual chapter. In the actual chapter, I had to take a hell of a lot of notes on. We have new concepts, new characters, so there's kind of a lot going on to talk about. But yeah, I was sick over the weekend, and on Monday I was kind of getting over it. I think I said something to that effect in the live reaction. And Tuesday and Wednesday I was just tired, like really tired. And even today, Thursday, I'm tired, but I wanted to do this video. So something that's been going on for a while now. So since the start of the channel, the camera I was using, it couldn't run, well, the camera I was using and the mic that I've been using, the mic won't work while the camera's plugged in charging. For whatever reason, guess they're just not compatible in that way, but when it's plugged into charge, mic won't work. So I have to just go on camera battery. That's why my videos can only be a certain length. And just recently, over the past few months, that camera battery, because it's gotten so old, has sort of like had a shorter and shorter run time, and that's been something that's screwed with me a bit. So I'm switching things over to a new setup. I have a new computer, and I'm going to be using the webcam from that, which should be better anyway. This is still with the old camera, so until I switch over to the new system, I'm going to be using this headset mic just for a few videos, hopefully not for very long, just as sort of a recording setup 1.5. Until I get things settled with the new setup. That way I can keep the camera plugged into charge while I'm recording, because this mic works with that for whatever reason. And if you've ever heard me in any of Nia D. Hemmings's group videos, this is the mic I usually use there, so I don't have to bust out my lights and set up for recording or anything. I can just sit at my desk with this. So yeah, is that all I wanted to see? I hate the way it looks on camera wearing a headset. It seems so odd though, but I guess a lot of people probably won't even notice too much, given that at least the way I watch videos like this, I usually just listen to them while I'm doing other stuff, and I've had a lot of other people tell me the same thing, so that's probably a thing. But the only thing I'm worried about, these headphones don't bend like backwards, they only bend forward, so that's not very natural, and I'm not going to record with one of them sitting way up here on my face. But they're super noise canceling, so I can't hear myself talking at all, so if I sound like a complete idiot, no way of knowing. So yeah, that's really bothering me right now. I'm talking and can't hear myself speak at all. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. So yeah, for maybe a few videos, this is going to be a stopgap temporary recording thing that I'm going to be using this headset mic, and hopefully it sounds fine. I tested it once beforehand, it sounds alright, so if not, I'll figure something out in editing. Yeah, let's get into Tower of God chapter 428. It was really good, season 3 episode 11. So starting from the beginning, the actual rundown of the chapter probably isn't going to be as extensive as the important stuff mentioned in the blog, and just a discussion of the topics used. But starting from the beginning, Michael doesn't actually seem to have that much info on Team Baam, our main character team. We see that he mentions things about, Kun, you didn't act like this in the past and whatever. And in addition to that, there was the part where he didn't know that Kun used Ice-type Shinsoo now. So all of that leads us to believe that he doesn't actually have that much info on them. Also, something that I don't know if anybody else has been talking about, but Apple blocked an attack from Varagarv. Apple busted out that feat, and I was just stunned. I was like, why is nobody mentioning this? That Apple is actually high tier enough to block an attack from Varagarv. So that's one thing that just even rereading just threw me off. Kanhong is badass. I already liked Kanhong just from her character, but she did these partial transformation things on her feet and ran across the wall. All the panels for it were cool, and confronts Dang Dang by punching him and knocking him backwards. Now, the next thing we get back to Michael and Kun, the close-up on the syringe is really misleading because I was reading, and he goes, "Oh yeah, something something, saying something about Kun," but we have like close up on the syringe leaking something, and that tends to lead me to believe, oh my god, he happened to stab him when he got punched, and now Kun is poisoned or something. But that wasn't the case. So I guess it was just a close up to show the detail of his weapon, but it was kind of misleading because when you see a close up of that, it leads you to think, oh, he must have used it. But no. Then Kun is badass, just totally wrecks Michael. I really, really like the showing off of his abilities. And he uses this triple box thing that I haven't quite figured out. It's either a teleport, he teleported himself up in the air to punch downward at Michael, or he buffed himself before he punched him. It's a buff move. I think it's teleportation, though. I think he just teleported himself up to attack from above. I think that's what triple box did. But then Michael spills the beans to save his own ass. He is totally comfortable with just selling anyone out to save his own skin here. And he mentions that Yama's brother is the sleeping monster, and we cut away before we get too much more into that. But he mentions that the elders want to wake him up, and Madarako used them to get Dang Dang. And that would make sense, because I've been joking about it for a while, that it's kind of odd how Baam's team has just kind of co-opted Madarako's castle and turned it into a base of operations. But it would make sense, yeah, Madarako's letting him use the castle because he has his own, or floating ship, whatever, because he has his own designs in play. So all that was good. He used them. It would make sense. Oh, another thing though, I don't trust Michael in saying all this. He's probably telling the truth to save his own skin, but I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't trust Madarako. Neither one of them are trustworthy at this point. From there we get back to what Baam's doing though. We see him use the water dragon, which was really cool. And we get a flash to 1 year earlier. And I had mentioned before, and I like that we got to see Yu Hansung using this back at Last Station, because it feels like it gave us some sort of build-up, like this is something we've seen before and now it's coming into play. Yu Hansung teaches Baam to store up Shinsoo. He says usually power decreases with the more bongs or amount or whatever, and it kind of makes sense, because like, if you have some sort of energy source you're attacking with, as you attack you run low on energy, whether it's mana or whatever, if we think of Shinsoo in that way. So of course the more you use, the more you would run out. The more the power would go down, I guess. Sort of like if you had pressurized water, the more you use, the lower the pressure would get, and you'd have less power spraying out. So in a similar fashion, that would happen with Shinsoo, but Baam is an exception to that. His power stays at a constant because he's blessed by Shinsoo. He also mentions that Calavan and Jinsung are that way also to a lesser extent, and that made me think to myself, okay, does that mean that Yu Hansung isn't blessed at all because he says next that he isn't blessed like Baam, or does that mean he's blessed like Calavan and like Jinsung, but not like Baam? And it seems from the blog info that he is blessed like Jinsung and Calavan, just not like Baam, because Baam is the main character. He's a special case. So he mentions that because he isn't blessed like Baam, he learned to store up Shinsoo. That way he could store it up ahead of time and he wouldn't be running out as he fought. And he explains that, and I like that we get an explanation for this. The reason Calavan was perfectly fine surviving with a hole in his chest is because he was constantly absorbing Shinsoo, so all of that was good. So his theory, his plan for Baam is saying that Baam could store up Shinsoo like he does. He could store it up in a loop and use that as a power source so it could be essentially infinite. He could have infinite Shinsoo because he just stores it up ahead of time. And it makes sense for what we've seen so far this season, where Baam hasn't always been able to use his power and he's had to do that meditation to store up Shinsoo between fights. So again, I really love that. It makes total sense. It gives Baam a cool power, but at the same time requires a prep time, which is awesome. It's something we haven't necessarily seen yet. So he mentions that the power could be like a sea of Shinsoo in one loop. So all that was really cool. Back to the present time, Baam cleaves through the building they're standing on, then he captures Akryung in the Shinsoo, and then he cuts his mask, but of course we cut away from that so we don't get to see what Akryung's face looks like quite yet, but that's something to be excited for in the future. From there we're back to Michael and Kun, and he mentions that Deng Deng is a key. Then the white fluffy thing that's been with Jalulu jumps off, and R.I.P. Kan Hong's hot friend. What a saddening loss of a design. Yeah, both of Kan Hong's friends get killed, and it is Paul. Paul is here. Baylord Paul, who is Baylord Yama's younger brother, and again, Baylord was kind of a title, now it's just a surname. It's whatever, doesn't really matter that much. And he's also a high ranker. Forgot to mention that. So next, let's talk about the blog, then discuss some of the things that happened a bit more. So in the blog, there was actually a lot of information that was really important. CU says that Baam's new skill isn't any like one specific technique, but it's more like a new base way of doing things that he can use. He also says that one must be born with the aptitude to do this kind of stuff, which leads me, that's what kind of confirmed, okay, Yu Han-sung meant that he was more similar to Calavan and Jinsung and not Baam. Yeah, hold on. Where was I? So, yeah, he says that Yuan Sung is incredibly skilled to create the framework for being able to do this and the theory behind it. And Baam is a mountain of talent to push the concept that Yuan Sung came up with to its extreme. So again, that's really cool. It kind of builds up Yuan Sung as being this person who's incredibly creative, incredibly smart, and I like the logic behind this because it would make sense that in a world with things like magic, in a world with things like Shinsoo, there are going to be people who would study those things like scientists. So that's always something that I like to see in a world with any sort of magic system. There'd always be people who study them and try to make them better. Or try to see what figuring them out could do in the future, and to see Yuan Sung coming up with ideas like this is cool. From there, let's see, what else did we have? He says that Paul is a lion that just got into a cat fight, of course, because he's stronger than all the regulars there. And he mentions that the three brothers were foreshadowed by the three fangs, and said that and the translator said Lion's translation sucks. So I'm like, okay, I don't remember them mentioning three fangs. I know that Lion's translation sucks, but I don't know why they're bringing this up here, so I had to do a little bit of research. And the three characters used for Canine Tooth Festival, and now I hate calling it the Canine Tooth Festival, the three characters used for Canine Tooth Festival, the first one literally means three, middle one literally means fang or tusk, and the third one means ceremony or festival. So it's literally Three Fang Festival or Three Fang Ceremony, which would make a lot of sense now, and it's just another example of Lion's translation just being kind of a mess. Like, I love that it supports CU. I have to say all the time, I love having an official translation to support the creator, but it's so often not very good, and I blame a lot of the reason for that is I think the translators probably have a lot on their plates. They probably have a bunch of stuff that comes in. They probably don't have that many translators, and so they just have these mountains of things to translate, and that's probably why it's not the best. But one thing that I saw brought up maybe a couple weeks ago that I hadn't really thought about, the company's translation was really, really good, and there are so many scanlations I read that are really good, that will have a page at the end or notes on the actual page itself that explains what the original meaning of a word that they're translating is and why they chose to translate it as what they translated it as, or just notes here and there about certain things that they're doing, and that's something that the company had going, so you would know, okay, this is what this word originally was or what it literally means, and this is why they translated it this way. And that's something that Line doesn't have. So when we see these names that are like way off, we don't really have any explanation as to why they changed them, or why they thought they should change them. So I think that's a big issue with it that I hadn't really thought about until recently. But that's everything that was important in the blog. Just some more discussion things for the chapter. I loved Kun's skills. I don't trust Michael or Madarako. Paul is kind of whatever. His design is very cool. His design is super cool. The name Paul, I saw some people criticizing it. We know that CU takes a lot of names from footballers. Says there a popular footballer named Paul around. I mean, that's probably where it's from. Or in the case of, say, Hockney's name, he just had a David Hockney art book and was like, I'll name this character David Hockney. So it could just be something laying around the room when he drew up the character, and he's like, Paul. Paul's a good name. Kan Hong was really cool here. I actually really like Kan Hong's character. I said it last week. I love Baam's new skill and how they're sort of adding some logic to Shinsoo as if it's a science itself, which I think helps the cohesiveness of the world that CU's building. I also think that the oldest brother is going to be kind of like an evil former leader that Yama defeated in order to take over and become the current leader, because that would do two things really well. It would make Yama a sympathetic ally character to join up with Baam, to give his character a reason to want to be an ally with Baam, or for us as fans to want him to be an ally, because they win us over with him being sympathetic. And it would also explain why the elders want the older brother, because they don't care if he's evil as long as he's powerful, and they're clearly the bad guys in this situation. So, yeah. That's it. I'd give it a 9 Shinsoo loops out of 10 score. I really, really liked the chapter, but more than the chapter being a good chapter, it was an informative one. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I say that basically every week. There's usually not too much to criticize, and even if there is, it's more on the technical level and less on the enjoyment level. So yeah, that's it. I hope this was bearable. I don't know what the audio is going to be like because I can't hear myself whatsoever. But I guess that's it. Thank you once again for watching. If you did like the video, comment down there. Tell me what you thought of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there about this or anything else, just tell me and I can give you a link to it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.